Welcome to Career Coffee Chat Live. I'm your host, Erin Urban. I'm a certified executive coach, and what I do is I focus on driven emerging professionals, helping them, just like you, remove those pesky career roadblocks so you can achieve more impact, influence, and income. And today is our end of year show. So as you tune in to the show, I want to say hi. I want to welcome you to the show. Please say your name, say where you're from. I'd love for you to be a part of this experience because it's the last show of the year, last show of 2021. And after this show, I'll be taking a few weeks to focus on personal items and getting ready for 2022. A lot of big changes coming in 2022. I'm very excited to talk to you about and share with you today. But as you tune in, please say hi, say your name. I would love to welcome you to the show. So come on in, pull up a chair, and let's talk about what is going on in 2021 and what you can expect for 2022. And most importantly, the focus of today's show is straightforward, simple success strategies. And yes, I am addicted to alliteration. Easy for me to say. If you've never seen my smiling face before, again, my name is Erin Urban. You can find out more about me at coachieurban.com. And I encourage you to go there because we've got a lot of great resources, great tools, including a career pathfinder guide that is free right there on the homepage. You can subscribe and be a part of the career growth community, which is an occasional newsletter you might get from me in your inbox a couple times a month. But as you tune in, please say hi. And most importantly, don't be shy. Share your questions. I want to hear from you what you need to thrive in the year to come because this time of year is one of my favorite times of year. It's my favorite time of year. Why? I love Christmas and I love the holidays and I also like to plan. So, just to be honest with you, this is a time of year that I take some time to sit down and focus on my career, my business plan, and what is to come in 2022. I do this every year and it's a very rewarding experience. Great to see you, Cornicia, tuning in from the Woodlands, Texas. Great to see you, Stephanie. She's tuning in from Houston, Texas as well. Good morning. Good to see all of you. And from wherever you are from the world, whether you're listening live now or tuning into the replay later, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. And again, don't be shy. Put your questions in the comments or in the chat because I want to hear from you. I want to hear how I can help you thrive. So we've got a lot of things to talk about today in this year-end show. First of all, I would be remiss if I didn't go through a little bit of a recap to talk about what the heck happened in 2021 and what's going on right now, and most importantly, what can we expect in the year to come to prepare ourselves for success. Because what I'll be sharing with you today, these simple success strategies and all around how to set yourself up for success, is not just excellent for those of you who are looking at career advancement within corporate structures. It's also great for those of you who are owning businesses, looking at entrepreneurship. So you're in the right place if you want to set yourself up for success in the coming year. Now, what's interesting is what drives success is shifting rapidly. Okay, careers, collaboration, leadership, conferences, conventions, conversations, and even how we buy groceries is very different than 19 months ago. Although I was a little ahead of the curve, I ordered groceries pre-pandemic. So anyway, I'm just kidding. But you have to admit it. A lot of things have changed in the last almost 2 years. So I'd love to hear from you. If you don't mind sharing in the comments or in the chat, what is the most positive shift you've seen or made since 2020? Most positive shift. Maybe that's not just ordering groceries, but what is something that you are actually kind of like, yeah, thumbs up, that has been a change for you since 2020? Now, as I mentioned before, this time of year is my favorite time of year. I love everything about it. The trees, the lights. We had this Christmas parade in our tiny town of Fayetteville, Texas this past weekend. Saturday was, it was a busy day. We had home tours, Christmas tours. We had the Christmas pony, Santa, Mrs. Claus, elves, reindeers, parades, all the things. It was great. We met half the town in about 4 hours. So it was a wonderful time. But also, the holidays are a great time to reflect and consider what strategies will help you accomplish your goals in the coming year. And as I mentioned before, a lot in our work and our lives has changed. Guess what else? People don't like change. So If you're feeling like, oh, there's a lot, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, yeah, you're not alone, because change has been the main constant for almost 2 years. And honestly, change has always been the only constant. We just don't like to admit it. But stress is normal through change because we don't like change. So if you're just tuning in, please say hi, say your name, and let me know what is the most positive shift you've made or seen since the pandemic. Now, Stephanie shares creating space for reflections and growth. Yay, 2 thumbs up, Stephanie. And by the way, Stephanie is one of my fellow coaches from our RICE cohort from the Door University. So we recently graduated as certified leadership development coaches. I'm really excited to see where this lady is thriving in 2022. So really great to see you today and participating in the show. So don't be shy. Let us know what's on your mind right now, because per Ira Wolf, last week's show, actually week 4 last show guest, he said, welcome to the never normal. Now, we like to say new normal, but welcome to the never normal, which is probably more accurate. And I prefer a more optimistic outlook. While there's certainly no new normal yet, we are entering perhaps an age of great hope and a fair amount of stress too, because as I mentioned before, we're going through a lot of tremendous change. Our socioeconomic structures have shifted greatly. We've seen a tremendous change in our personal lives and our work lives and just how we socialize and collaborate. So it's normal to experience stress during any strong change cycle. And the past 2 years have seen unprecedented shifts in these areas. 2020, I like to say, was a period of great reflection, and 2021, this year, is the Great Reset. Now, 2022, I am calling it the year of the Great Reckoning, because we'll see a lot of things we've put into motion in 2021, or catalyst in 2020, put into motion in 2021, really start to come to fruit or bear real results in 2022. And someone else said this is also the year of FOMO on steroids and massive VUCA. And just so if you're not sure what FOMO is, it's fear of missing out. And VUCA is volatile, uncertain, changing, and uncertain environments. So these, and I clearly am on holiday mode already because I can't talk. But it's almost like we're this year trying to make up for 2020. We're trying to make up for lost time, while also, by the way, at the same time, undergoing life-altering events. Does that resonate with you? Do you feel like you're trying to make up for lost time this year? If that's you, give yourself a break. Give yourself some space and grace. What's interesting, I just got off a phone call with one of my mentor coaches and for the coming year. And she mentioned that a lot of people are just taking off for 2 solid weeks this year, which is, I wouldn't say abnormal, but certainly not quite so prolific across almost everybody she's talked to. Is like, no, we're taking off the last 2 weeks of this year. It's been enough. Thank you. Time out. So, and let me know if that resonates with you. Do you feel like you're trying to make up for lost time from 2020 and 2021? So a quick recap of 2021 before we dive into these top success strategies to make sure that you are successful in achieving your goals in 2022. Let's have a quick recap of 2021. What happened? What's going on? One of the things is that conversations have shifted greatly around the dinner table to include new terms and new focuses. And if you'd like, share with me what are some frequent things that are coming up that are new in your family chats. And this could just be around anything that we really didn't talk or focus about pre-2020. So if you don't mind sharing in the chat, what is coming up new when you are having your family chats around the dinner table or during your social hours with family? Also, in 2021, we've seen the job market go from crickets to crazy in a very few months, which is woohoo exciting for those of you who are seeking new opportunities. And please note that it's still a very competitive job market out there. So don't think you're just dust off the old resume and put it out there and that's going to net you real results. You do have to keep in mind it's a very different job market out there, highly digitally focused, and your documents need to be focused on where you want to go, not just where you've been. Also new, Not so new. Video interviews and team meetings via Zoom, Teams, Skype, etc., are here to stay. For the foreseeable future. This will not necessarily go back to the way we used to be. Even those of you who are coming into the office have probably experienced this. Oops, still having Zoom meetings. What's up with that? It's here to stay. And we will not necessarily be going back to the way things used to be. Travel will be cut down quite a bit. For those of you who liked traveling business class, like my husband did about every month, that may not be happening. And that's a big business savings for a lot of companies. Those more forward progressive companies are giving those business savings back to their employees, which is good because the employees are absorbing more costs in their homes and their work lives, having to have another video camera and another monitor or two or three, as well as a printer and printer paper. That doesn't come free. Also, in 2021, people are more acutely aware of this demon gatekeeper, speaking of job search, or the online job search, called applicant tracking systems, or ATS. In fact, in one of the recent panel events I did with American Marketing Association just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about this digital gatekeeper, and one of those panelists said, "Oh, no, it's not that big of a deal. Actually, more people I know in HR are reviewing all the resumes." I'd have to say, that's probably not necessarily true, because the average amount of applicants for a decent position are in the multiple hundreds and hundreds of applications coming in. So you can't tell me they're reviewing all of those resumes. What they are doing is they're reviewing the top amount of resumes. So, on the good news is, sounds like more resumes are getting through applicant tracking systems. However, you still need to be relevant in the job you're applying for to be reviewed by a real person. So Cornelia says she's trying to make up for lost sleep from 2020. Yes, absolutely. 2020 was pretty busy for me as well. In fact, I didn't really have a vacation either, which did not help me in my mental health towards the end of the year, because at the end of the year we ended up moving mom over Christmas, so I really didn't have a break at all. Hi Mariama, great to see you tuning in from YouTube. So if you're just tuning in, let us know, what great changes have you seen from 2020 till now, and also what's new for you that you might be hearing in your conversations, whether they be out for the holidays or around the dinner table. Stephanie shares topics at the table: how to see family located abroad as often as before in the current COVID conditions, right? Mental health of kids and change career challenges, right? So these are all probably areas that are not new for some other people too, or rather new for other people, but also common for other people. Changes in careers are out the roof. In fact, over 4 million people this year have quit their jobs in the Great Resignation. So changing career challenges is certainly a hot topic around dinner tables for sure, as well as I want to travel abroad and see family, or just for personal reasons, and how can I do that with the current climate as it is right now? And then of course mental health for kids and adults. Stephanie, that's us too. So I love the fact, I know you're focused on your kids, but remember, we need to have our mental health too. And all parents, for those of you tuning in now or later, parents, oftentimes we give so much. Remember, you can't give what you don't have. So what time are you taking for you, particularly now over the holidays where everything is so busy, and it may be a lot for you to focus on. So that's something to consider. Now, other things in our 2021 recap is negotiations are very different now. So if you are, as I mentioned, making that career shift or that career change, maybe looking to go to a different company, or even internally within your own company, negotiations now include whether or not you want to work remotely, hybrid, or otherwise. So I'd love to hear from you, those of you who are tuning in now or later. What is your preference? Do you prefer remote work, hybrid, in person? Let me know in the comments. What is your preference moving forward in the quote unquote hashtag future of work? Would you prefer it to be more remote, hybrid, or, I just want to see people in person? So let me know what resonates with you. And with that said, the invasion of our work lives into our personal space has piqued this fatigue of being always on. And as I spoke to American Camp Association last week, being always on has its consequences because we are experiencing record levels of burnout, emotional fatigue, exhaustion, and as Cornisha mentioned, catching up from sleep. Cornisha, a lot of people still are being very sleepless here in 2021, trying to make up for lost time, if you will. So this always on society, now that we've had our work lives enmeshed with our personal space, and of course we have smart devices and the like telling us everything that's going on around the world at any time we want to look at it, we are constantly on. And creating a space where we can unplug is extremely important for our mental, personal well-being, as well for those we care about. So Stephanie, you mentioned well-being for mental health for kids. Creating a space and helping them understand it's okay to just create some, you know, unplugged time. It's very hard for them to understand because they were born on an iPad. However, it's also really important for their mental health because the rate of innovation is very, very steep right now. I just got off a conversation yesterday talking about this rate of innovation and is exponential and is impacting us as human beings because our evolution doesn't happen that fast. We don't evolve that quickly. Now, while we are seeing some distinct changes between different generations, we don't evolve as quickly as the rate of change currently, specifically with our technology. So just keep that in mind. We as humans are still based on this, saber-tooth tiger, woolly mammoth model, and we're shedding some of that. But it takes time. So give yourself some space and grace because you will experience a lot of stress. Speaking of stress, anxiety, and emotional well-being are on the top of many people's minds. It's no longer just something, oh, well, emotional well-being, yeah, when I get around to it. No, we really need to have that now. And we have data that supports the following. This is very interesting, speaking of well-being. The Great Resignation is significantly fueled by toxic work environments, which are attributed to poor leadership. I have data with this. And as I shared in a recent Forbes article, people are fed up with the status quo. The way we've always done it simply isn't working any longer. The old hierarchical system that's been in place since we were hunting saber-toothed tigers is slowly fading in favor of collaborative leadership and a style called leader as coach. So leaders who have more of a coaching mentality. And what I'll do is I'll copy this link and put it in the comments. So those of you tuning in from YouTube and LinkedIn can see that. If you're tuning in from Facebook, I do apologize. I'll certainly put that in the chat after the show so you can get those show notes. So Mariama says, I'm for hybrid teams because I enjoy being around my team. Yes, absolutely. Same here. I love that balance. I'm what's called an ambivert. So it's neither extroverted or introverted. Need a little bit of both. So I like being around people. And then there's a point where I'm like, okay, I've had enough. You are all great. Now I need me time. So Deanna Crit says, hey, split a few days in the office. So she's right there with you, Mariama, tuning in from Mariama's tuning in from YouTube, and we have Deanna, she's tuning in from LinkedIn. And Stephanie, yes, thank you for the reminder. She mentioned, taking time for ourselves is really important. So I think this link went directly to YouTube, so we'll put in the show notes for LinkedIn as well. So you can check out that Forbes article that talks about the Great Resignation. So with that Great Resignation, we talk about these hybrid models or being remote and this and that. And a lot of people are saying, oh, people are, resigning or quitting because they want to be remote. Well, that's part of it, but that's not all of it. Better flexibility and more adaptability and being able to show up when people want to show up in their strength zone is being called for. So there's three main things that I'm hearing as themes from those people in what we call the mid-career strata. One of those is well-being. Well-being is a must. It's a core value, not just a trending topic. It's a core value. Also, they want to be invested in as professionals, as professional individuals. They want to be invested in. So their professional growth, they want their companies to take interest in this. So unfortunately, some companies are seeing a backlash from years of neglecting things like talent development and leadership training while reserving coaching for upper level executives. And I'm, along with a lot of other coaches, are advocating for coaching being made available to all levels of leadership and, most importantly, emerging leaders, and more well-being, not just being table talk, but something actually being put in place. So people being more cognizant of that. Additionally, the third item that I hear most commonly from mid-career people is more adaptability. They want more flexibility in their work environment. So that remote, hybrid, in person, it depends on personality, how you want to show up. But it's very important to have that ability to choose. So the choice is really important to a lot of people. And the old models, the old hierarchical models, do as I say, not as I do. We felt shackled to this, I have to do this awful commute and traffic every day. Where now the new models, that's not necessarily the case unless you're doing something that only to be done in person, like surgery, for example. You don't necessarily have to show up in the office every day. And speaking of talent development, which has been kind of put on the back burner, also means that a lot of companies don't necessarily understand their talent pool. So as a coach, a lot of what I'm hearing right now is, well, I really want to stay with my company. I like my company, but I'm being, glass ceiling or stonewall by my current management. They think, well, I've got you where you are and you're a good individual contributor. I don't want to lose that. So they're actively stopping individuals from expanding or growing within the organization. And that's a huge mistake because guess what happens? They leave. So this fear-based leadership discourages individual contributors from developing themselves within the organization. The only way out is to leave the company. Ergo, great resignation. So let me know what you feel about that. In the comments, in the chat, pop your feelings, or any questions that you have. And if you're just tuning in too, please say hi, say where you're from. I'd love to welcome you to our year-end show. So a few more things on our recap is another interesting development. Now this may light a few fires, but as you know, I'm a straight talker. So let's just get to the point. Okay, so that mid-career and that mid-career strata is occupied by those who identify predominantly by millennials, if you will. I don't even like using generational terms because not everybody is the same, okay? However, this particular mid-career strata is in a position now to get back at the older generations that gave them such a hard time and push those older generations out of the workplace. Now, are people consciously doing this? For the most part, no. But it is an unconscious bias, and I'm seeing unconscious bias at work very strongly right now. And unfortunately, Gen Xers are also being thrown in the mix. Hey, give us a break. But anyway, the problem with this is it leaves a huge gap that a few companies are not very inclined to close. So we're seeing less and less people being accepted in when they have a lot of experience. Another development that's become obvious as a result of this is hiring managers don't necessarily see years of experience as being a major driver for being a top candidate. And that's right. So your years of experience and expertise is not necessarily the biggest driver as being a top candidate. Instead, they're looking more at the whole person. Now, this is across the board. We're seeing more hiring managers and decision makers looking at the whole person, and that's for internal positions as well. Not just, tell me how long you've been here. It's more of who are you and what do you value and what value can you bring to the company. So things such as personality, self-awareness, adaptability, and coachability are also factors in people being top candidates, which is very, very interesting. This is not necessarily the case 2 or 3 years ago at all. So I say all this to say, now more than ever, it's critical to be the entrepreneur of your career. So let's talk about some straightforward strategies for success and what will help you achieve your goals and knock those outcomes out of the park in 2022 with a very, very different dynamic out there, both in our work and our personal lives. Now, I mentioned before, I love this time of year. It really is my favorite. I just will sit for hours staring at a Christmas tree. I know I'm weird, but I don't know, it's just a thing. But another thing I look forward to is pressing pause, right? Pressing pause on my career, pressing pause in general, and just reflecting over the previous year and considering what is to come. And it's a wonderful time of year to get laser focused on the right goals that honor your zone of genius. So oftentimes, this is what happens. If we don't press pause, we just barrel through, we just push through, true grit, next. And one day you wake up, you have a moment to wake up, and you look around and go, I don't like what I'm doing. I feel unfulfilled. I'm not in a good place. This doesn't feel right to me. Not happy. And I'm not sure what to do about it. So instead, I encourage everyone to pause more than once a year just to reflect, take a deep breath, look around you, and say, all right, are my goals still my goals? Is still work with me based on life changes, what have you, what's going on in our world, whatever that might look like? And is it honoring me as a person? Because oftentimes we forget about that. So I'll spend a little bit of time here now chatting about how to understand one's zone of genius and, most importantly, design a path that clearly honors that and supports your natural gifts and strengths, because that's so absolutely non-negotiable when it comes to success. If you think you can drive success for extended periods of time in a space that's uncomfortable for you and you're unfulfilled and unhappy in, I have another thing coming. It's not going to happen. Okay, not for extended period of time unless you like being burned out, and I don't recommend that at all. So it's a great time of year to create your own career action plan or a business plan if you're an entrepreneur. Well, let me know if you have any questions or any comments in the chat as I go through this, because I want to make sure that I answer any questions that you have. It's very important for me that we are all thriving together, and I definitely have a collaborative approach. So I want to hear anything you have to say. So let's talk about how to set yourself up for success and some simple, straightforward strategies to do that. Now, if you know me at all, you will know that I'm keen on being efficient, and I do not like wasting time. I don't necessarily appreciate much fluff. So let's get right to the point and to the heart of matters so you can achieve your goals and or your life, career, entrepreneur, etc. So number one, where do you think we're starting? The very first step. Yeah, you. All about you. Getting real and getting to know yourself is number one, because you cannot grow something you don't know. So what drives you? What are your priorities and values? How they influence your life or career direction or your entrepreneurial direction? Also, what's your work style? How do you show up in your workplace or your life? Who are you? What is your communication style, your decision-making style? How do you handle stress? These are all big things to consider. What's your presence? In other words, how do other people see you? And it's likely that there's a difference for some of you between your work presence and your off-hours persona. So share with me in the chat if that's true, if there's a difference between your work presence and your off-hours persona, right? If so, why? What's going on there? Why is there a difference? Because here's the thing. I used to go into work wearing a mask every day, and it did not serve me. And when I had my career wake-up call and made a major pivot, I realized that by coming into work and being more myself, I was more authentic and also more approachable. Because if you're wearing a mask, chances are you're not as approachable. And same thing with my business now as a coach. What I do now, I am slowly evolving into transform more of myself and show up more of myself online, which, by the way, is super uncomfortable. Sometimes it's not necessarily natural for me. But as I start to become more comfortable and know myself better, it's easier for me to show up authentically for you, which is really important to me. Also, other questions you can ask yourself is, what do you want to do more of or less of in your life or your career? What gives you energy and what drains you? What are your natural gifts? These are things that you do easily, probably without even thinking about it. So oftentimes they fly under the radar. You may have heard me say that before, but it's very important to key into those gifts and understand them, because they truly drive where your top talent is. And when you think about all of this, how does this align with your current trajectory in your career? Do you see any benefits or challenges? Can you do a cost benefits analysis? And what do you sacrifice, or what are your projected successes if you continue along this path? So let me know if some of you may be answering, okay, I'm more, let's see, let me make sure, who's in the comments? Sometimes I can see who you are and sometimes I can't. Let's see. Stephanie. Stephanie is sharing. Stephanie Trevino. Great to see you. Great to see you tuning in. I'm much more relaxed in attire outside of work. dress up for office. I have a fancy uniform because I'm typically working with men. Oh, that's funny. I think I want to know more about that. Why just men? Why not women? I find I dress up more for women. I don't. It's just me. I feel like maybe a little bit more judgy space. Like, oh my gosh, they'll notice if I don't have like something on my eyes. Like, men don't care. I can put a ball cap on them. They'll never know. Mariama says, I'm the same for both home and work. This year, I've been really putting in the time to get to know my leadership style. So good for you. I'm glad to hear that. It's so important to know who you are and know how you show up. So that way you can evolve yourself based on a place of knowledge versus just throwing something on a wall and see what sticks. So let me know if you are a little bit different, your work persona versus your personal style, off hours, and maybe why. Although I really think it's interesting, our different reasons. I will dress up more if I'm going to be around women. So lately, personal side note, I've been more involved in our small community here in Fayetteville, Texas. Been part of the Lions Club, been doing more social gatherings with the ladies here. And I've noticed I've started like wearing more makeup and doing my hair more than last year. Last year I was like, t-shirt, whatever. We'll just put a scarf on, right? This year, I've got jewelry on. See? I didn't do that last year at all. Okay, so Stephanie says, makes me taller. Heels make me taller, even though I'm already tall. It helps me give stature when I need presence. Do you like to loom? True story. I used to do the same thing when I was wearing heels. Now, I can't necessarily wear heels very long, but I'm tall, I'm 6 foot, and I would still wear heels. And people were like, "Why do you wear heels when you're 6 foot tall?" That's so I have a presence, right? So I'll walk in the room, and I work with mostly men in a very male-driven environment, and in order to have the presence, so I wasn't considered, oh, that little woman. The presence, and I got things done. So let me know, Stephanie, if that's true for you. You feel like you get more things done when you have that almost automatic presence and respect. That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. So let's talk more about what can you do. So now we talked about getting real and getting to know yourself, right? Which is so important. We have to have that foundation before we can do anything else, because if you don't, chances are of you being unfulfilled and unhappy or off on the wrong track are pretty high. And by the way, if you want me to share this with you, this list, I'm happy, very happy to do so. Just send me a personal email or send me an email. I'm happy to share this list with you, okay? I can actually maybe create a Google document and put it in the show notes, but sometimes you may not see those. So if you want this list for any reason, what I'm talking about today, just feel free to reach out to me at coachyurban.com or email me on LinkedIn and the like. I'm happy to share this. So let's talk about what's coming next. So we established who we are, how we show up, what our zone of genius is. Now let's talk about our target. So we need to have a target. We have a goal to work towards. And first thing we want to know is the path So the path you're on, does that honor your zone of genius and how you show up and your gifts and strengths? Because if it doesn't, you would definitely start to feel some friction there. And also, what are the benefits of your career target that will enrich your life based on your priorities and values? Ooh, we don't necessarily think about that. So how many people tuning in right now have considered this aspect of your career goals? What are the benefits of your career target that will enrich your life priorities and values? Not just your career. We'd like to keep those separate, like we don't bring our life to our career or something. You do. Like your whole person when you show up at work. You don't just, oh, I'm just this work person or this personal. No, it's all one. There never really was a separation, even though we like to make it so. So have you ever considered this aspect of your career goals? How is it enriching your life holistically? Not just getting you a promotion or a raise or whatever. Okay, this is great. How is that enriching your life? And as I mentioned before, what's the cost benefits analysis? Are you sacrificing anything, or is there something specifically that's a part of projected success for you? So I'd love to hear from you, those of you tuning in. Have you considered that? And is there any thoughts around that too? So what accomplishments, also some good things to think about. What accomplishments and career contributions do you have already that are in alignment with your target? This is very important. Hint, hint, write them down. Always keep an accomplishments inventory and take a look at that and make sure that you are approaching it based on your trajectory. Particularly if you're developing any sort of documents for a career transition, say resume or LinkedIn profile, even internal moves, it's highly recommended that you approach this from the position of where you want to go. Because oftentimes we'll just talk about what we did in the context of what we used to do. That doesn't always help connect the dots, particularly since those reviewing these documents are very distracted individuals. We are in a distracted society, so don't think they're going to take the time to go, oh, okay, they said this. Well, that's probably related to them. Doesn't happen. We have to make it obvious for them. So, Stephanie says, exactly. Yes. So when I was talking about coming in and establishing a presence and making sure that things get done, she agrees with me. All right. So Stephanie Shaw says it's important to know what helps our presence and our self-confidence. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it is important. And what's interesting is, I'm going back in time a little bit here from our conversation, but some studies were done as far as, and particularly over COVID, is very interesting because most of the time we were dressed from here up, right? Here down, sweatpants, pajama bottoms, whatever. At least we hope. Anyway, how we dress affects how we show up, how we present ourselves. And during the early stages of last year, when we were kind of new to this whole virtual environment, there's a lot of interesting things. I'm sure you did. Let me know in the comments what's the most interesting thing you saw, maybe, or didn't want to see via video conferencing software, Zoom, Skype, or the otherwise, from your coworkers or anyone else. Maybe you didn't want to see the mess behind them, of course, but perhaps they were showing up. I know my husband mentioned that one of his HR coordinators, we had an important meeting with the whole team. She was still in her bed. I'm not making this up. I wish I was. She was still in her bed in her pajamas. Yep. Yeah. Great. And it impacts how you show up. So how we need to present ourselves will impact how we show up. It's very, very interesting research. Ken said, I consider it all the time. Lots of questions about what I'm looking for, an employer. I say the whole package. Yes, absolutely. Not just pay, but benefits, room for growth, work-life balance. Absolutely. So Ken, my question for you is, based on your trajectory, how is that informing your life priorities and values? And what are the costs, what are the benefits for or cost impact there? So that's often a place that we don't necessarily always focus on. Like, well, I'm getting more pay so I can do something. Okay, well, that makes more sense. But sometimes when we move up the ladder, that takes away time because we have more responsibilities. We have to be on more of the time as a leader. So that may mean we're sabotaging or sacrificing some areas too. Someone shared some of the things that they unfortunately heard or saw. Strangely, I heard flushing. Yes, hopefully you didn't see it. So we've all seen some very interesting things early last year, but how we show up, what we need to do to embody who we want to be is very important. Speaking of, what are the expectations? So speaking of your career target, what are the expectations for your arrival state? So when you know that you've reached your goal, what are the expectations for your arrival state based on your current or your target that you want to focus on? In other words, how will you know you've arrived? How you know you've accomplished your goals? And who do you think you will be when you arrive? So will you have changed as a person in any way? With that said, can you embody any part of that right now? There's a very good reason why I'm asking that, because, and all of you tuning in right now, share with me, when you think of your career target, where you want to be, who you want to become, if that is different than who you are right now, can you embody any of that right now? And the reason, very important reason I mentioned this is because when you start exhibiting the behaviors of how you want to be, how you want to become, and the goal you want to achieve, when you start exhibiting those behaviors and embodying that right now, you start creating very important neural pathways, programs, if you will. It's programs, subconscious programs in our brain that support the behaviors that you need to create those goals. Most people don't do this. When you start embodying who you want to become or that position or that goal right now, you actually create the neural network and connections that support the behaviors you need to achieve that goal. It's kind of cool. Now, the opposite can happen too. And this oftentimes happens a lot. When we think about our goal, we think about all the obstacles in the way, like, oh my gosh, what about this and what about that? And then our energy goes to our obstacles, which then creates neural pathways and networks that support our behavior based on the obstacles. Don't want that. We want to focus on what we want, the outcomes of what we want, not the outcomes of what we don't want. So share with me in the comments or chats, can you embody whom you want to become, that target, that goal right now? And what might that look like for you? Is that putting on jewelry? Just a little thing. And the reason I started doing this, honestly, is because I looked over some previous videos. I'm like, oh, that's kind of plain. Let's do something about that. Dress it up a little bit, lady. Come on. Besides, I have all these nice clothes and jewelry that I wasn't wearing. It's just silly. Anyway, moving on. Personal note. So let me know if you can embody any of those goals right now, what that might look like for you. So next step 3, is what's your career action plan? You know your goals. You know what you want to be, where you want to go. How do you make it happen? Because it doesn't just poof. It'd be nice if we could just buy a magic wand from Amazon, 2-day shipping, wave it, and we're there, but it doesn't work that way. So first of all, we need to understand, where is the gap? What's the gap between where you are today and where you want to go? And informational interviews are extremely important here. All right. So Stephanie says, it requires me to address my inner chatting. Inter chats, yes, that little internal narrative. So yes, absolutely. So that internal narrative, is it supporting or sabotaging you? Mariama says, continue to wear my in right colors. When I do, I feel energized and joyous. That's awesome. That's good. That's very good. I like that. I like all those. So let me know if there's anything else you can do to embody the person that you want to become. And Stephanie, I would say, what would that future you say to you? Think about that. All right. So we were talking about a career action plan. What's the gap between where you are today and where you want to go? And like I mentioned, informational interviews are very, very helpful here. So if you know someone who's ahead of you in their journey anywhere, have an informational interview with them, chat with them, ask them, how did you get there? What do you think is important? What do you see? What are those behaviors? What's going on? What's a day in your work life? All these things. Be nosy. Be curious. Be curious about these people. Just want to know more about you, right? And compliments help. To get these informational interviews, compliments help. You get these interviews with these people because people are busy. But get to know, what is it like a day in their shoes or a week in their shoes. And in some cases, some of my clients have actually adjusted their trajectory slightly. They're like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that specific thing because that goes against my values, or it's not in my strength zone, right? So this helps us plan more wisely. And additionally, once we understand that gap from where you are today and where you want to go to accomplish your goal, what are those action items you need to accomplish towards the goal? Can you create a roadmap for yourself with rest stops, i.e. milestones, right? Celebrate those milestones. We do a terrible job of that. We just think, goal, 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 plow forward, plow forward, plow forward. And we don't ever celebrate the milestone. It's a big deal. It's very important to give yourself that acknowledgement and share it with those who care about you so they can give you acknowledgement too. Now, Stephanie says, my future self would say, you have everything you need. The trick is to truly believe it. Well, is it a trick? Or is it just to believe it? Poor Stephanie, I'm coaching her live on the Career Coffee Chat show. But, is it a trick? Because the word trick implies that there's, a trick, there's a catch. So what else could we say about that? How do you flip that script a little bit? Right. So we mentioned celebrating milestones. In fact, for those of you tuning in, speaking of celebrating milestones, what have you accomplished recently or this year that you can celebrate yourself for? Share that in the chat with me. What have you accomplished this year in 2021 that you probably haven't given yourself any added girls, added boys, or a pat on the back about? What can you say? Hey, yes, I did this thing and I can celebrate this. Share it in the chat with me. And for those of you turning in to this replay later or listening to the podcast, share it with us. We want to know, what have you accomplished this year? Because probably you've accomplished a lot this year already. And have you celebrated it? Right? So share with me in the chat what you've accomplished this year. Most of all, it's really important to get support on your journey. So when you're creating that action plan, understanding those milestones or rest stops, understanding that roadmap, who can support you? And sometimes that starts off with an informational interview. You can ask these people, well, who would be a good support network? Maybe that's a professional organization. Maybe that's a mentor. Maybe it's a coach. Maybe it's your current team. Whatever that looks like, who can support you? Maybe it's family and friends. And what resources do you have access to? What network will aid your empowerment efforts towards your goals? It's very important to have that because there is always a structure that we can lean on to help us when we have questions or feeling a little stuck. So it's important to have that support group and that network. And of course, last but certainly not least, implement. So once you have all these steps down, understanding, really getting to know yourself and your priorities, your goals, your gifts, your strengths, your zone of genius, then understanding what your target is. So defining that goal, then getting that roadmap planned out, then is a fun and exciting time to implement that. Before I go forward any further, Stephanie, she responded, LOL, coaching her live here. Good catch, she mentioned. Mariama said, oh my gosh, Erin, I've accomplished a lot this year. Total career switch and a bunch of certificates, including the PMP. Woohoo! So can we all say high five to Mariama? Yeah, let's give her a high five. Let's give her a thumbs up, a heart, a celebration. Let's celebrate what she's accomplished because this is important. And I bet for those of you, other people tuning in, have accomplished a lot as well this year. So you have all accomplished a lot that you haven't celebrated. So my next question, Mariama, is, have you celebrated this yet? Have you celebrated yourself? Have you given yourself the acknowledgement? Very important. We don't. We're so hard on ourselves a lot of times. Yeah. You got this. Wash hands. Yeah. You got this for sure. And have you celebrated yourself yet? So this is very important. When we talk about implementing, celebrating our milestones is a big part of that implementation, by the way. First of all, we mentioned support group. So obviously, we don't necessarily get our goals accomplished on our own. Take, for example, 2021, January, I launched my book, best-selling book, in 5 categories in one day. I didn't do that alone. I didn't go in and go, ooh, I can press some buttons and make it a... No, it doesn't work that way. I became a best-selling author because of people like you. You don't get these places. You don't get these places alone. You don't accomplish your goals alone always, right? Most of the time, it's help with a team. So I am in deep gratitude for everyone that tunes in to the Career Coffee Chat show, for everyone that listens to the podcast, for everyone that supports. It's just tremendous gratitude. And if there's been a theme, I think, that I can truly take away from 2020 and 2021, it's having a better appreciation for the power of collaboration and the power of gratitude and the power of paying it forward. Because it's been a big business model premise for me, is paying it forward to people like you. So that is where my heart is. So I want to say thank you too for all of you tuning in now, and for those of you listening to the replay later or the podcast. It means a lot to me. It really does. It means a lot to see your faces pop in. It means a lot to get the feedback. Hey, this made a difference. Because that tells me, yeah, it matters. And it's funny, years and years and years ago, when LinkedIn was still fairly new, and I was first doing my trial and error trying to figure out how to become more of an influencer in my industry. And I started to write my first article, and you have that negative Nelly in your brain, your little inner critic. And I said, nobody's going to read this. Nobody cares. And I said, wait a minute, inner critic. You never know who will need to hear this. So I went ahead. Inner critic. It's not like I didn't have those little negative chats inside my brain. I did. But I went ahead and did it anyway, because I knew that someone may get value from what I have to share. So think about that. Someone may get value from anything you have to share. So you consider that. And also, speaking of sharing, planning your conversations when you start implementing your journey, whether it's internally or externally of your company to communicate your goals, is huge. Because how many clients I talk to are like, well, I really want to accomplish X, Y, Z. And then I ask, so who have you told? Nobody. Why? Well, I work really hard. I'm sure they notice. No. You need to communicate that. So thank you, Mariama. She says, congratulations. Yes, absolutely. So it's really important that we plan our conversation, whether it be internally or externally, to help facilitate any sort of goal, achievement, career advancement. We can't expect people to just know what we want. We need to articulate it. And most importantly, articulate what value you can bring based on your goals. So if you're looking for a promotion, for example, or looking for a different type of role within your company, I highly recommend that you talk about your business case. Most people don't bring that to the table. Very importantly. I'll go more in detail here in a minute. But plan your time and energy wisely. When it comes to implementation, sometimes we can burn ourselves out in the process. So don't overload yourself too much and try to do everything at once. You just can't eat the elephant in one bite. You have to take it one bite at a time. It's a terrible analogy. We have all these terrible analogies in English language. But anyway, you don't accomplish a goal all at once. You can take it in bite-sized pieces, and that makes it a lot more obtainable. So understanding those milestones helps you create that roadmap. And also saying yes strategically to activities that directly support your goals. Now, this is a big gap. A lot of people, whether they are in corporate structures or whether you're an entrepreneur, say yes to too many things that don't support their goals. And they end up in a sandpit that they can't get out of. Set your boundaries politely and firmly and stick to them. Remember, being an overcommitter will only bring you and others a disappointment. In fact, I shared this story, it's a true story, about someone that I know who overcommitted to everything. She committed to everything to gain visibility within her organization. Well, when I met with her at lunch, she shared with me she had been passed over for a promotion she thought she was sure she was going to get. And she was passed over for this promotion because she had overcommitted to everything. She couldn't complete anything. So the only thing her leadership saw her as was a really nice person. Tries really hard, but she was not a completer. They needed a completer. Hard lesson to learn. Okay, so remember to say yes strategically, because stretching yourself too thin doesn't help you at all. It doesn't help your perception, and it doesn't help you achieve your goals. Then connect to those further along the path than you do to learn from them. Like I mentioned before, those informational interviews are a great place to start, and connecting with these individuals will help you tremendously to understand and avoid any sort of pitfalls or roadblocks or challenges you might want to maybe better off just not have to go through. And network actively based on your career trajectory. Get to know those who have influence and add value to them. Like, for example, in our last Career Coffee Chat show with Russ Johns, he shared how to use video messaging to make deeper, more meaningful connections with people. And it's true. When someone sends me a video message, it makes a much bigger impact on me than just a, regular text message. Now, I do read regular messages too, but think about it. If someone sends you a video message, yeah, that gives you a lot deeper insight to who they are, and it's a lot more personal. So it's a different way. We're in a new world. A rate of innovation is increasing rapidly. So what parts of that innovation can we embrace to help us achieve our accomplishments and what we want to gain? And if you're seeking better opportunities within your organization, like I mentioned before, making a business plan or business case is golden. Include the value you plan to bring to the company based on your expertise and your strengths. That will help you position yourself wisely. And even if the leadership maybe doesn't have, that opportunity, maybe that opportunity isn't a good fit, they'll be thinking based on that value you mentioned you want to bring. They will start thinking about this. I've done this. I applied for a position I didn't want. I knew I wouldn't get. At the time, it was a massive leap from where I was. But I applied for the position because I knew I was going to interview with key stakeholders, including the CEO. And he politely asked me, basically, why did you apply for this job? And I said, well, Stan, it's not that I actually feel like I'm the best fit for this role. And he's like, I applied for this job because I know that you only know me for what I do. And unless we have this kind of conversation, you'll never know what value I can bring to the organization. He was like, oh, interesting. What do you want to do? And then I shared with him my business plan, what I could bring to the organization, the change I could make. And it wasn't many months later that they created a position for me. And now is a good time to do this. So starting right now, what kinds of conversations can you have internally or externally to start having these conversations, start getting these juices flowing within decision makers' minds? Because right now is a great time to do that. They're creating the budget for next year, and you want to be in that conversation. Now is a good time, whether it's through holiday parties or otherwise. Actually, they're probably the best time to have these conversations, to start those creative juices flowing within leadership minds. My husband just got off an interview, same thing. It was an internal management position that, he would like to have it, but he kind of likes what he's doing. But he had a really important conversation with key decision makers to help them understand what value it can bring to the organization. And they're kind of thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe. So, see, I'm really excited where that conversation will lead to and what will happen. Ken says, so agree. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. They're really, really important to start having those conversations now while they're creating the budget. And if you're applying externally, you're thinking, I've done what I can with this company, give yourself some room to grow. This is a big mistake a lot of professionals make, is they apply for jobs they're 100% matched for. Well, the problem is good hiring managers will look at that and go, no, you'll get bored very quickly, and they're right. So give yourself some room to grow. Give yourself some stretch room. You should not be 100% matched for the jobs you apply for. Give yourself some space there so you can grow into the role. That's very, very important. And a big mistake a lot of people make, particularly if they're actively in transition. Otherwise, in other words, you're in between jobs. You may feel like you have to apply for a job that's an exact fit. No, give yourself some room for growth, because that's very important. Any questions about what I've shared with you so far? So we talked about getting to know yourself. We talked about defining that goal, finding your career target, and then making that action plan, developing that roadmap, and most importantly, how to implement it with success. If you follow these steps, you will see real results, whether you are W-2, professional working within companies and organizations, or whether you are a solopreneur or entrepreneur. You will see a big difference. And if you can start creating this plan now over the holidays, now is a great time to reflect. Now is a great time to connect, because you have all these parties. You probably already happened this previous week or last week. I know I had 4 or 5 different parties I had to be to, different places, and sometimes at the same place or different places at the same time. And there's a lot going on. Which is great. And now's a great time to have these kinds of conversations. So let me know what questions you have. And again, if you want me to send you this list, I will do so. Send me an email, shoot me an email, reach out to me at coachyurban.com. And don't forget, on the homepage of coachyurban.com, you will see a Career Pathfinder guide. So if you're not really sure what that target is, you're like, yeah, I kind of know my values, but I don't really know. This is a great step in the right direction to help you get more clarity around what will give you ultimate fulfillment in your life and in your career. And don't forget to invest in your personal growth and well-being this year, please. We're in such a strong change cycle that unless you've been living under a rock, you will be affected by it. And then there's something called emotional contagion, which is actually a condition that's been proven where we catch other people's emotions. So we can actually catch mass consciousness emotions. So if people are feeling, large numbers of people are feeling a certain way, we will be impacted by that. And it's automatic. You can't turn it off. So it's very important to recognize that, particularly if you're feeling in a way that's not normal for you. And maybe you're responding in ways that aren't normal for you. You're like, oh, I don't normally feel this way. I'm normally a super relaxed person or what have you. Well, that's probably why, because you're a human being. And if you identify with being more empathetic, you would definitely be more impacted by mass consciousness shifts or reactions to current trends and what's going on. So give yourself some space and grace, as I like to say, because we're still in a strong change cycle, ladies and gentlemen. We will be this way for some time. So we need to learn how to create that peace within ourselves. That will be critical to survive this very, very strong change cycle. And based on the rate of innovation, it will become more acute as time goes on. So self-care and well-being is very, very important. I've shared with you today quite a few great tips on how to reduce stress and how to plan and accomplish your goals. But I've shared previous shows how to reduce stress and reduce agitated brainwave states, which are counterproductive. And I shared that in my Thanksgiving special. So I'll put a link to that in the chat into the comments section. And if you want a direct link, again, feel free to reach out to me. My Thanksgiving special, I shared with you my mindlessness technique, which allows you to achieve calm no matter how crazy your life is. And I've had a pretty crazy year this year. So I had to find space and grace to get through all of the many stressors that were bombarding me. So I shared that in my Thanksgiving special. I'll be happy to share that with you again. And it's essential also for peak performance and higher cognitive function, which enables you to focus better. It's magic. It truly is. And again, I call that my mindlessness technique. You can look forward to that coming in 2022. So just a spoiler alert, 2022, we'll see some distinct changes. Career Coffee Chat show will still be here, will still be live again after the first of the year. We are taking a brief break over the holidays. But in 2022, I have a lot of changes coming to my coaching business and what my offerings will be, more around well-being, self-care, and mindfulness. So I'm looking forward tremendously to launching that and giving those resources, making those available to you. If you have any comments or questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me. And to leave us on a note here with current trends and times, if you're seeking career advancement specifically, it's also critical to know yourself, your value, and be able to articulate that value you bring to organizations. So it's been a deep pleasure talking with you today, being here with you today. I'm just overjoyed by having all of you tune in, whether you're watching the replay later or listening to the podcast. Just know that I have much gratitude and thankfulness for all of you and your support for the past couple of years. We will be looking forward to a brand new year in 2022 coming up shortly. You'll see some new lineups. I'm working on that right now. Some great guests in 2022 and also some new resources and new topics. And I'm super excited working with some people right now on the branding. You'll see a new website being created. It's going to be awesome. So I look forward to sharing all this with you in the coming year. And it's my deep wish for all of you, my friends, to have a very, very happy holidays in any way that you celebrate. Thank you again. And I hope you have much love, care, and joyous energy surrounding you through the next couple of weeks and ongoing beyond. And so all the best over the holidays. Happy holidays to all of you. And of course, keep elevating. See you soon. Happy New Year.